Hello, Dylan. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you? I'm alright, thank you.
I'm all good. I see you in, highly motivated for the game, no?
I am extremely motivated for this game. It's a weird one because I think everyone's reasonably confident about today, but nerves are still out the roof. I see you're a relieved man after yesterday.
I'm very, very relieved. I'm very happy. I'm very satisfied. Now it's Final Four at Wembley. Anything can happen. Very confident of the Italian team, and as I said last time, I know that they will put up another important performance. Now we'll see how it goes. It will be interesting to see at least we've reached the semi-final after missing out on the 2018 World Cup. That was a wonderful way to bounce back now. So
definitely, I think they've overachieved. Not overachieved, but I think they've gone further than people have expected. They probably secretly thought they could get to the semi-finals and maybe the final. But they've definitely, I think, given the Italian people a bit of satisfaction and belief in the team again, which is good to see.
Sometimes, there was a team like Belgium who has this golden generation, that everyone was waiting for them to win something. Maybe this European Championship could have been their last chance. Maybe there is the World Cup in 1.5 years' time that could be really their last dance. But sometimes you have those teams like Italy who step up with tradition and experience, and those are external factors that sometimes take over in such tournaments. But yes, we'll see how that develops. We are here today to speak about another topic that we are really interested about, and hopefully we can speak a lot about it as well in the coming season. Women's football. We are very interested in the women's game. Nowadays the interest in the women's game is really increasing due to media exposure and the competitions, investment, and everything else that comes with it. Both of us work in the women's game as well, in different roles, and obviously that helps us to have a hands-on experience of this movement. We will start with the UEFA Women's Champions League, which is basically the biggest club competition in the women's game. There were the first qualifying draws on Friday. And why we are speaking about this first qualifying draw? Because with the new format of this Champions League, there are plenty of super teams in this qualifying round. And we will go just skimming through first qualifying draw. There are plenty of games that I've already forgot, but I know that there are some interesting matchups, even in both in Champions and League, but we will come to that and I will explain a bit about the format. So I'll put on up draws here. So basically the first round of the Champions League is divided into Champions spot and League spot. Basically in the Champions spot there are 11 groups with 4 teams. The 11 teams that qualify from that round basically go into round 2. League part is basically the same, but with a less number of teams. Going through here, obviously, there is Birkirkara, which is the Maltese team that will face Glasgow City. Glasgow City are at the back of their 14th straight Scottish title, fending off the challenge of newcomers like Celtic and Rangers. This will be hosted in Scotland. Whoever wins here most probably will face Bik from Kazakhstan, who are a very experienced side. We hope that Birkirkara will have another valuable experience in Europe. A very tough draw, but we'll see how that goes. Going forward, Benfica are also on the first qualifying. There's Anderlecht as well. And Benfica as well here. So, as time goes by, now we're having these teams that we usually see them in the men's team now playing in the women's competition as well. Going forward, this is a very interesting group. This seems like an Europa League group. What do you think? CSK Moscow, Swansea.
I think that is an interesting one. I think there's another one which I thought exactly the same. I think it was the Juventus one. You got Juventus, you got Besiktas, and I know you've got St. Paul.
Oh, I imagine if. I mean, most probably they might get St. Paul to Novosti, who are a very experienced team, but Juventus, Besiktas, it's eye-catching. It's first of all they play with the same colors, but it feels like a Champions League group stage game. It's true, and obviously these names are what will make the women's competitions then further eye-catching. And then there are also important teams like Twente here, Ferencvaros. And the final, by the way, it will be on May 22 at the Juventus Stadium. So it will be an interesting venue as well. Now going into the league part, which basically pits the teams that were not champions. This is very interesting. We've got Milan on their debut, who already faced Zurich, a great side, and could face Hoffenheim in the final. Hoffenheim who are investing a lot. They've recently brought in Belgian Player of the Year, Tine from Anderlecht. And Bordeaux, coached by former Arsenal coach Pedro Martinez. You remember him?
Of course I do. I do indeed. No, he's a great man. Martinez is a good manager. They're in safe hands, definitely.
And I mean, Arsenal did quite well with him, so it was a transitional moment during those years as well. Group 3 is awesome. We've got Levante, Celtic, and we've got Celtic Rosenborg, which at this point has become a classic in the European.
They always face each other.
And it's interesting because before the draw, I was going through Twitter and was looking for some comments from Celtic fans, and they were like, "Okay, so we might get Rosenborg here again, and they might face them as well in the final, or in the third place game." And the Group 4, which will be played in Russia, it's basically our team, Arsenal. Will face Kazakhstan's second team. Should be a straightforward game, to be fair, because on paper, this team, who I won't pronounce because I'm not sure about it, whenever they face the leaders of the Kazakhstan league, they've always lost 7-0, 8-0, 10-0, so I'm seeing a huge gap there.
I tried doing some research on them, and honestly, all I could find was that they have had a poor record against bigger teams. So I don't see anything else other than an comfortable Arsenal win, really.
But then the final,
the final,
against Eindhoven, are very good. They finished second in the league behind Twente. And
there's only 1 point. There was only 1 point in it too.
Well, Arsenal PSV, it's also does not really bring good memories, to be fair.
Nope.
And Arsenal Lokomotiv Moscow, another interesting matchup. I think both face each other back in 2003, could be. In the men's Champions League, of course. It's not easy because, first of all, they will be home, Lokomotiv Moscow, and they've improved a lot. They're investing. They have the core of the Russian national team, who, by the way, will face Malta in the upcoming World Cup qualifiers as well. So it's not an easy task for Arsenal to qualify into the Champions League. These games will be played on the 18th, whereas the finals or third place playoffs will be played
21st of August.
21. So, as an Arsenal supporter, I mean, how do you look at Arsenal heading into this competition? How important is it, European football, for a club like Arsenal in the women's game, given also the status of Arsenal in the women's game?
I think it's massive. The fact that third place this time round got Champions League, qualified Champions League, is absolutely massive for the club. It's also very important to get through this group stage, this playoff round. I think the whole ethos at Arsenal would be to get through, get to the group stage, and let's crack on from there. You got a new manager. Let's start the rebuild as we want to, as we'd like to. Having said that, PSV are incredibly difficult. You've got Joelle Smits up front, who scored 23 and 18 in the league, and she's absolutely on fire. She's still 21 years old. And I'm not being funny, but Arsenal have got 8 players going to the Olympics this year. I'm honestly not. I'm not entirely sure how many players would be available of those players. You've got Iwabuchi at Japan. You've got Williams, Catley, and Ford at Australia. You've got Williamson, Little, Moy, and Miedema, being the other 4, obviously Miedema at Holland, and the other 3 in it, part of the English squad called Team GB. The final for the Olympics on the 6th of August, and these kick off on the 18th of August. So you would assume that most of them will be okay to play, especially in the sort of easier so-called fixture. But for the final, if one of the let's say England get to the Team GB get to the final, you've got 3 key players there who might not be part of the squad. PSV have only got 1 person in the Olympics, and that's Van Veenendaal, who was also at Arsenal for 4 years. So I think that could be a key factor in that match. It's obviously a one-legged player. It's a one-legged final. It's not two-legged. So it's a one-match shoot-off. And I do fear for Arsenal in that sense, because you might have players who are either tired or unfit, or it could be the other way around, where they'll be little more fit because they've been training for a longer while, but it depends on how long they've rested for. So yeah, Arsenal PSV final, it should be closer than people think.
Speaking about PSV, you mentioned Joel Smits, who is a very interesting Dutch player, one of the upcoming talents in Dutch football. To be fair, they could be one of the best. They are already, to be fair, one of the best nations in the women's game, but they could cement their status with their upcoming youth talents. Joel Smits, however, should not face Arsenal because she joined Wolfsburg. So there's
she joined Wolfsburg. I did not know that.
There's a less threat from PSV side. Most of the Dutch players are all heading into Germany because there is a connection through. Because Germany is close to the Netherlands. Bundesliga is a better league. The German Women's League, it's a better league than the Dutch at the moment, and also there is connection through agents and everything else. And often they make the move from a top Dutch club to Wolfsburg. And but on the other side, Arsenal did make a signing, and
very key signing.
And it's a very important player. I mean, England international, who's now plenty of experience, has also won the Champions League as well at this point with Lyon, and so she knows what it takes, to win big competitions. She has a winning mentality. I think she will come as well to not prove a point, but continue to prove herself on home soil as well. No, so it will be interesting to see her as well.
I think she's got a point to prove in England. I think she went to Lyon as an up-and-coming star, and she became a star at Lyon, and she's become the player she is now. But I think there's a little bit more to prove in England, and hopefully she can do that here. We know how world class she is. We know how good she is. Hopefully the team's kept being built around the key players at the club, and I see her being very, very key in the league. She could link up well with Miedema, obviously with Van der Donk leaving, and another couple of players on the way out. I see her being very important for the team.
Indeed, and this is the year that these players will have the European Championships on their mind as well. Euros that are scheduled to be played next summer in England. And this competition, particularly with UEFA Women's Champions League, will be kind of a warm-up as well for such a big tournament. Now that the interest into this movement is growing, there is a record of 72 teams from different associations in this competition, which means that obviously the rankings, the new format has allowed more teams to participate, but now more associations will invest into this game as well. So it will be interesting to see, these debutants like Real Madrid, Milan, Hoffenheim, Bordeaux, Celtic that often play in the men's Champions League, and now we see them in the women's as well. We'll see whether this competition will kind of motivate them to invest more, not only in players but also in facilities, coaching staff, and whatever it takes. When you see these teams, like Real Madrid, Milan, I mean, in England it happened as well, no, with Manchester United, Manchester City coming in, investing heavily, and now already, challenging for titles. Do you like this fact? Do you like this idea of having these teams? Often these teams now will take over the traditional teams, but do you see that the introduction of these teams ultimately is, one, inevitable, and two, beneficial for the way forward of this movement?
I think you're both right on those 2 points. I think it's just a matter of time, and also it's beneficial. It will be beneficial if they do prove they can provide grassroots football for girls. You've got the likes of Liverpool who have gone the other way, unfortunately. Which, it's very unfortunate because they were a great side at one point. But you've got City, as you just mentioned, Manchester United, the most recent, who are challenging for the title. They probably will be favourites next season. No, I think it's beneficial for the women's game. I think right now we have to take what we get, as long as there's something in it grassroots wise, because if we get massive teams buying for massive sums at the top of the game, it's totally undermining our grassroots level. You don't get the youngsters coming through. You don't get the local talent coming through. And it's a similar discussion to men's football a few years ago when we had so-called too many European players, too many foreign players coming to play the Premier League. It's the same for women's football, and now it's at that stage where it's at a key moment where grassroots football is, in a way, a little bit more important than adult football, simply because there is such a bright future now that we can build the game, we can make it bigger, and we can make it better. That's for sure. And also, hopefully, I know BBC announced that there'll be more TV rights, so that helps along with the bigger teams. It's on the way up. With the big teams coming through, as you said, I don't think there's anything bad with it right this second anyway. Obviously, we saw with the big teams in men's football, with the Super League going through, that's something bad that can happen. Obviously, I don't see it in women's football right now. But that's the defects of having too much money in the game. Sometimes you get too much greed. But hopefully, women's football does remain as it is and just keeps getting better, getting bigger, just step by step, as men's football did, to get where it is now.
It's true, and I was going to mention that point, the new deal that Sky Sports basically has made to do in Super League. No, it will basically put the women's game into another level. It's a groundbreaking deal that is one of the best contracts in women's sports. That means that besides having these games live on Sky Sports, which is a massive broadcasting station, of course, and it will reach also people through social media channels, because they will now have programs, features, promos, highlights, videos, interviews. And basically, this sometimes is more helpful than just broadcasting the 90 minutes itself, no? Because if you put in plenty of content there, out there, people now will start to get to know more these players, the stories of these players, the importance of this movement, but at the same time also the growth, and at a society level it also helps, to continue to provide football to all genders as well at the same time. To be fair, England has been already, one of the best nations when it comes to the women's game, in terms of, obviously they have the Euro 2022, which self-motivates them now to push this game forward and promote it. But at the same time, for example, through the FA player, they did a brilliant job, providing all live games with content, with highlights, with features, with weekly videos, and that was innovative, and that was very important. And I think that all nations should follow this model. No, even countries that maybe have been, headlining the women's game before England. I think about Germany. I mean, Germany are still one of the best nations in the women's game, but I think they still need to work a lot from this point of view. And I think England now are leading the way. I know Italy are doing some things as well with providing live games and content, but this is the way it should be done. No.
Oh, 100%. I do agree. England, in terms of televising, in terms of contracts, I think they're definitely ahead of the game, ahead of anyone else. Maybe the US are up there as well, but in Europe, the UK are definitely on top. And it just shows to show that this 2022 Euros comes such a perfect moment. You've got the contract, you've got the Euros coming up, and all of a sudden, after the World Cup, you've got another boom, another batch, let's call it a batch of interest from girls who might necessarily not feel comfortable playing football or don't want to play football right now, but watch it on TV, and the Euros will inspire them. Maybe they get a chance to go and watch a game in their local town, local city, because there will be seats. The tickets won't be expensive, or as expensive as men's games. And it's a massive opportunity for English football once again to breed an absolute massive batch of young, talented players, and hopefully bring them up in the grassroots level, which I just mentioned, in the big clubs, whether small clubs, big clubs, wherever. The main thing is to get girls playing football, obviously, girls who want to play football, but get them playing football and get them in the routine of everything, and hopefully getting them a professional contract at some point.
What can help as well is having Team GB getting a good result in the upcoming Tokyo Olympics as well. And also, maybe football is one of the most watched sports in the Olympics, especially at men's level. Because often they play with the under-23s. But for the women's game, the Olympics often has been the reference point. Even bigger than the World Cup and the Euros. Maybe in the coming years it won't remain the same. And we might see maybe a change in which categories will participate in the women's tournament. I think it would be interesting to put in younger selections now into Olympics, because the senior teams now should focus just on World Cup, on European Championship, and other continental showpieces, especially because now the calendar, is becoming bigger, increasing with a lot of games, European competitions and everything. So, having every summer having a competition, it will start to take a lot of toll on these players. But here I shared another groundbreaking deal, the one that UEFA did with DAZN and YouTube, because in the upcoming 2 seasons, all Champions League matches will be live on YouTube, which is awesome. I don't have to look for any streams anymore. Even though in the recent days they've put up UEFA TV, which has been a great addition as well. One could watch for free there as well. But having all these games here, it will be interesting. This is an article on Sportzik, my website, basically. So where you can see all details here. And then in the following 2 years, they will divide games between DAZN, the pay-per-view basically platform, and YouTube. And it will be interesting to see, because these players will help UEFA to test waters as well in terms of television interest as well. And I think, given the teams that will participate, I think Milan, Arsenal, Celtic, Real Madrid, that will all automatically help, especially when it gets into the knockout stage, then where the best teams will face each other ultimately.
I totally agree. I mean, you look at as we just mentioned, you look at the playoffs, the qualifiers, and maybe the bigger names aren't as favourites as maybe, like, for example, St. Paulton against Besiktas. But perhaps this time round for the women's game, maybe we'd want Besiktas to qualify, because you've got the bigger names, maybe that'll attract a few more viewers. And and then maybe next year and the year after that they can qualify. They can not qualify, maybe someone else qualifies, and then you've still got the viewers. And hopefully it's just step by step you keep building on it. But yeah, on your Olympics point, I do agree. Teams should be really giving chances to the younger girls. You've got the Dutch side, who's incredibly talented in that Olympics team. You've got Miedema, you've got Van der Donk, you've got Jill Roord, you've got an absolute host of former Arsenal players in there. But no, yeah, I agree. These broadcast deals are absolutely incredible.
Checking a bit into the one of the main teams that were participating in the league, but I may not consider it as favorite because the gap is still big with some of the best teams. But now we have a team like Juventus, who is dominating in Italy and want to make a name for itself in Europe as well. And they've announced 2 signings. One of them, you know her for sure, former Arsenal goalkeeper. Obviously here they made it simple, so I just called 3 p.m. He's France number 2 at the moment, but could become number 1 if Guaddi retires from international football.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Giuliani is on her way out from Juventus, and at the moment they are looking also for a second goalkeeper as well, given that Doris Bacic has left as well. I don't know if you remember her playing at Arsenal, and what do you think about her, about the signing, basically?
No, I think it's a good signing. I think it's a very good signing for Juventus. I think, as you said, they're not real favourites. So I think it's a step forward for Juventus. I think with Joe Montemurro coming in, he'll probably bring in people he knows. It'll probably settle the team a bit more and get the players playing around his system. And I think it's a smart move by Montemurro, simply because of what I've just said. I think players will know his system. Players will know how he is, what he wants, and what he expects. So bringing players in that he already knows will help others. Even, for example, if there's few players there who have been there for a while, the players coming in would also have experience with the manager. So all of a sudden, you've got chemistry in the team, and you've got something to talk about, and it's a very good move, I think, for goalkeeper and manager and team.
Yeah, bringing Joe Montemurro has been a valuable addition for Juventus, and could be also for Italian movement, because they might raise even higher the benchmark, the way of the methodology and the technical stuff, and whatever he can bring with him from a certain experience. Another player that will be Juventus is fullback Martina Lenzini. She was at Sassuolo in the past 2 seasons. She was with our Malta international Hailey Bouget as well last year. This shows that Juventus, she was already on Juventus books. They brought her back. This shows that they want to kind of reinvest in Italian youth players as well, which is good, because ultimately that would also boost the entire movement besides the national team, which at the moment is very good and could be one of the dark horses in the upcoming European Championships as well. And I think one of Montemurro's traits was working with youth players. Also, these kind of signings can also help him feel at ease, and help him develop these players. Obviously, we are talking here about a long-term project.
I totally agree, and that's why I think he should sign Hailey Bouget. Yeah. No, he's very good with youngsters. He's got his ways, and his ways are very, very excellent. He's a second to none manager, and he makes all the players feel at home, feel comfortable. And hopefully this is a step forward for Juventus, and they could start closing the gap in with the bigger teams. Obviously, as a football club, Juventus is one of the biggest in the world, but in terms of women's football, they've got a bit of catching up to do, and they're catching up. I'm sure they'll get there in a few years' time.
To wrap up this chat, I will end with Bikir Kara. Bikir Kara will be Malta's representatives in the upcoming Champions League. They've got a tough draw, but it's interesting that they will face Glasgow, who they already faced back in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, when they met in the first qualifying round of the Champions League. Yes, it was 2013. Glasgow had won. They had a brilliant team there. And this will be the third time actually that then Glasgow would face a Maltese team. So a second time against Birkirkar, third team overall, because the first time they faced a Maltese side was in 2011 when they faced Mosta. And in that Glasgow team back in 2011, there were very interesting players. I would mention just a couple of them. Rachel Corsi, who's one of Scotland's players and is now playing in the NWSL in the United States, and Lisa Evans, who scored one of the goals as well. And obviously she's a brilliant player with past experience also in Germany with Bayern Munich. I've shared this article here because also last October, City United, another women's team in Malta, had announced a collaboration with Glasgow in the interest of promoting and helping the women's game. And such a collaboration will be helpful for both teams, especially maybe for but also for the women's game in Malta. And why not? Having Glasgow facing a Maltese team will help more to gain more interest into Maltese women's game. I think, because now they will look into Birkirkar, they will see this collaboration, and maybe they will start to look more into our game, which ultimately is producing a lot of individual talents in recent years, and who are doing really good abroad as well. No, so this is another article from my website as well, which was last October, and I have in mind to do more in-depth coverage about Glasgow against Birkirkar, maybe speaking with someone from the club as well. But having Maltese teams in Europe will always help. And now with Bujé doing well abroad alongside the other Malta internationals will inevitably help us gain more interest. No, what I mean, how are you a bit catching up with what's happening in the Maltese women's game as well?
Yes, I am. Ever since it sort of boomed, I think there was one certain positive result in some qualifiers a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. That's when I started sort of watching and making sure I keep in tabs with it. I think with Birkirkar and playoffs, we all know it's going to be extremely tough. But I think it's about building. It's a little country with obviously interest is growing in Malta too, but maybe not as rapid as England, Germany, as the major countries, understandably. In my opinion, what Maltese clubs need to do is take it step by step and take every single performance and every single minute of playing in European competitions as a learning curve. Watch other people, watch how they work. And as Switty have done there with Glasgow, that's a perfect example of taking your club forward, getting a partnership, getting collaboration with someone, see how they work. They can see how you work. You take each other's positives, and you learn from there, and you set up a good football team from there, and hopefully that'll gain interest in the localities and interest in young girls in Malta, because I know there's a boom right now in interest, or it's higher than it's ever been, which is great. It's absolutely brilliant. Again, with Hayley Bujaya doing well and other players doing well, you can only see it going one way, and that's up. And I think they're in the top 90 in the world rankings. I want to say. I'm not saying the world rankings are accurate.
In the recent rankings, we've dropped down from below 90. We are now 93rd, more or less. But it's all they are all. If you look at the points, they're all joined.
They're all congested. Yeah.
So if we are 93rd, we are actually 90 because we have the same level of points with 3 other teams. And then the women's rankings, you don't. It's difficult. It's different from the men's because there is still a huge gap, So if we get a positive result against the team in the 40th position, we might easily go straight up 10 places. So, but no, the rankings are obviously they are not something to go by with. To be fair, I don't like the rankings, but it's a good indicator to see more or
But
less.
it's a guide, yeah. It's a rough guide. It's a rough guide to see where you are, and maybe look at those countries who are in and around you and see what they might be doing differently, which could work for you. Yeah, it's positive. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I sort of watch the women's results more than I do the men's at Malta. But more recently, after Manja took over, it sort of leveled it up a bit, because he's got us playing good football, which is nice to see. And also, talk about young Maltese talent. I have to say well done to Alex Satariano, who's made the move to Frosinone, which again is massive for Maltese football. Just need more of them a bit more often, unfortunately. Even players playing abroad. I know there's a few players gone to Gibraltar, maybe sort of lower level than Malta, but maybe playing more regularly in a higher division. But yeah, having to answer your question, I have kept on tabs with the Maltese national squad, and I don't intend on stopping, to be honest, because results are positive. And yes, this Spirit Clara tie will be tough, very tough, but I'll probably be looking out more for performances and individual performances and see how they go about it.
One has to keep in mind that last season, Cara in a one-legged tie against Cluj, with a very big team in Romanian women's football, they lost just one, and they were leading by 1-0 at halftime. So they were very unfortunate in both goals. So that speaks volumes of the improvement of Cara, because then there is already a massive difference from a club to a national team, especially in a small country like Malta, now with the limited resources and everything. So at the end of the day, it's always nice to see them travel to Europe, because it's already difficult, with all the license requirements and everything else. It's a massive hassle. So a big well done to them, and hopefully they will make us proud, and they will make themselves proud as well. And I will give you a point of interest to keep following Maltese women's football next season, because your old hometown, you're still hometown. I don't know what's your connection there, but we'll have a women's team.
They've got a new football team. Yes, women's football team.
So I have to see you for a game of San Juan next season.
Maybe. I mean, hopefully after this whole COVID situation is done, I'll be able to come down and watch a game. That will be great. That will definitely be great.
Who knows if they challenge for titles in the coming years? That will be interesting to see as well, no?
They might need some funding.
To be fair, San Juan is one of the teams that invest cleverly, even in the men's team. They work well with the youths. I know a couple of coaches there as well. So it's interesting to see these teams, embarking into this movement. Ultimately, it's not about just quantity; it's about the quality of the teams and persons you have in the women's game, and that's very crucial for the women's game all over the world, because if you don't have the right people who don't understand really the requirements of this game, because it's different from the men's, obviously that won't help. And to have these teams with these persons, it will be interesting. So we are looking forward to speak more on the women's game in the coming season.
Yes.
Champions League, Women's Super League. I think that goes by. This month we will have the start of the Tokyo Olympics, so we might actually get some discussions about the big nations that will participate now. Netherlands, Team GB in particular. There's also
kickoff times might be awkward.
I have to check about it. True. I don't know if they will make for the European audience.
It's 4:00 Japan. So what does that make it? I think it will be 2 a.m. here.
Depends. Well, I haven't looked yet at the schedule of the Olympics, but I do follow the J League, which is the Japanese men's league, and often their games at 6, at 7, at 8, and 9. So if they play at those times, it might be tough for me because I like to sleep a lot. But I might wake up early to watch some games, and so we'll have to see about this. But there are plenty of interesting things there.
Team GB have actually got a tough group in the Olympics. They've got Chile first game, and then they've got Japan and Canada.
Even the Even the USA group is tough.
Yes, there's Netherlands, I believe.
They got Sweden to be. I think could be.
I did have a look at this. I think it's Sweden, Australia.
This is something that we have to look up.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to chat about it at some point. But I think it was Sweden, Australia, USA, and New Zealand. That's my guess.
Yes. That's. Oh, okay. Yes. So not Netherlands, but it was Sweden. Yes, I was correct. Because last time I was watching USA Mexico, and they mentioned it. Sweden, Australia, New Zealand. New Zealand is a complicated group. Sweden played USA earlier this month, and they drew 1-1. USA got equalized in the closing stages of the game. That was the only draw of this new coach in 22 games. So he has a record of 21 wins and 1 draw. It was against Sweden. Who, by the way, Malta faced Sweden a month before and we lost just 3-0. So that was an impressive result for us as well. But Australia and New Zealand are very interesting teams. Actually, Australia have been on a winless streak against European teams lately. Against Germany, Denmark, Netherlands, they've lost heavily. So we'll see how they will bounce back. And New Zealand are always interesting package. They have some interesting players who play abroad as well. So we'll see how that goes. But we will have plenty of discussions about the Olympics, and this should be a very interesting tournament. And so we'll speak again next Monday.
We will.
Should be around 6:30 and 7. Obviously, now we'll shift back into the Euro 2020 with discussion about the 2 semi-finals. So we'll have plenty of time to dive into these games with statistics, analysis, and everything else. We should have a special guest with us. Well, I won't say who will be, but we'll say that on Monday, and who should join us and discuss a bit also one of these teams that will be playing the semi-finals. And at the same time, we enjoy your support. We hope that you continue to engage with us with your comments, questions, and feedbacks. Don't forget to subscribe and like our video, which might not be important for you, but important for us, And I hope that you keep enjoying our discussions as well. Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you very much, Gianluca. Here's to England winning and me wearing another England shirt on Monday.
I might come with a Shevchenko shirt on Monday. I'm not sure.
Oh, don't say that.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you very much. See ya.